Entering the Mayo experience.
That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. That Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to another edition of the Dog or Pass podcast. This for UFC Fight Night Wichita, Lewis versus JDS. First time they've ever been to Wichita, Kansas, and frankly, we shouldn't be surprised because it's Wichita, Kansas. Cody Saftic, have you ever been to Wichita, Wichita, Kansas?
Yeah, I have not.
Oh,
however, Bellator seems to do real good in Hawkinsville, Connecticut, or Thackerville, Oklahoma. Those little areas are great for MMA.
Any fight happen. One thing we should definitely worry about moving into this card this week is bad referees.
That's a bad
referees,
on every
bad
card.
judging. Like, first time they've ever been to Kansas, the state in general. So, like, expect some shit to get fucked up.
Can I cut you off there?
Sure.
Some people, not me, but some people believe the two best referees in the game are Herb Dean and Mark Goddard. And these guys fuck up. So who's to say some hillbilly from Kansas? By the way, the commission's actually really not that bad at all. Good commission.
I guess they do a lot of UFC. They do a lot of Invicta cards, right? It's like that's the home of Invicta.
It's the home of Invicta. They've done Bellator.
Fair enough. So
they've done Bellator cards as well.
A little bit
it's
more experience than
all I'm saying is everybody.
I'm giving them credit.
Anybody can make a mistake, right?
Yeah.
We got to worry about bad judging on every single card.
True.
When was the last time you've made it through an entire card without a single bad decision? I think 235 personally. I think it was good judging that card.
Yeah, last card was great.
But I mean, usually it's like you're either in a small marketplace like this, or you're in Czech Republic, or you're in Australia, or you're in Brazil, or you're in wherever where you are. There's gonna be bad decisions. So I'm not particularly worried about them. I think they'll get it right. What I am worried about is this looks like a difficult card to predict. Like, I could sit here and make a compelling argument for why any fighter on this card has a valid chance of winning. So now we got to kind of siphon through which are the ones we trust. And there's not a whole lot of trustworthy fighters on the card. So I'm interested in getting your take on it and delving into it.
Yeah, before we get into that, we have our giveaways this week. Our last week's winner is Sales5280. Doesn't even sound like a real name, does it?
Sales? Yeah, of course it does.
But $20 DK has went into our friend Sales5280's account.
Good.
This week, same old game as usual. Give the episode a like. That's step one. None of these things are possible, Cody, without that. Give the episode a like. Step two, leave your DK handle. Step three, we didn't talk about what we would do.
How about this?
Boom. Because I love that you're jumping to help me, to bail me out here.
Because I don't think Wichita, Kansas is very obscure. You and I were discussing that there are far more obscure locations in the world. Give us where you would like to, the most obscure place in North America that you would like to see a UFC fight night. In Paul's case, Paul actually spent a couple months in a place called Flin Flon, Manitoba, an actual place. I hear bad things about that place, but an actual place. So in his case, he would leave his DK handle, give the show a like. Of course, that always helps. And a UFC Flin Flon, Manitoba would be Paul's answer. So you guys, if you live in a small town, let us know what that small town is and UFC, whatever small town of your choice.
Oh, you're basically stealing like Max Holloway's gimmick here. Like hashtag UFC Hawaii. It's like Flin Flon, by the way.
Flin Flon.
Spent a couple days in the hospital there. Long story. We won't get onto it. Maybe one day when we do like a little podcast on the side, like a Monday type of release type of thing. We'll get into those types of stories. But
okay, so then one last question.
But yeah, home of Wendell Clark.
Really?
Hometown of Wendell Clark. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, so if they did,
there's only like 5,000 people there. There is no way that they would ever do a UFC card.
If they did do a UFC card there and somebody inevitably ended up in the hospital, from your personal experience, good hospital?
Well, like they forgot to put freezing in my head.
Jesus.
Like, let's see if I can try to rig this up all by myself. So I got this scar right here.
You're doing a fine job of illustrating it.
Everybody can see it. And they forgot to put freezing in my head, and I was kind of unconscious, like not unconscious, but like I hardly remember anything. And apparently I started screaming. They're like, "Why is he screaming?" And they were just like, "Oh shit, we forgot to put freezing before we start sewing his head back together." So no, The hospital in Flin Flon, Manitoba, not top notch.
Okay.
Neither is UFC Wichita. Main event, we've got Junior Dos Santos taking on Derek Lewis. Junior Dos Santos is 9,400, a minus 210 favorite. Derek Lewis is 6,800 and plus 175. Give me your thoughts there, Cody.
Yeah, well, of course, now it seems with Derek Lewis fights, we always talked about the big power this guy's got and how he's always dangerous. And even more so now that I think he's got 5 rounds to deal with. He's definitively the underdog. He's got the same issues coming into this fight, Paul, that he has coming into every fight. He is not the better grappler. He is not faster than Junior Dos Santos. He doesn't have better cardio than Junior Dos Santos. His chin's better than him. His raw power is what he's got. And taking away from that Volkov fight and the Roy Nelson fight and other times the Shamil Abdurakhimov fight, guy can be down 2-3 rounds. It doesn't matter. He can still come back. And it's not that I'm one of these guys that's really on the JDS's shop-worn bandwagon, because ultimately it's like they're heavyweights. But he's got 3 of his 5 3 of his last 4 losses are by knockout. His last 3 being by knockout. When he does get knocked out, it's by big power punchers. And Lewis is capable of that. When I look at $6,800 on DK, I'm not backing Lewis here. I think Junior wins. But that's an excellent price tag considering if you're playing, he would be considered at that price tag a total punt. And what a good punt this guy has proven to be over the course of his career. That if you don't take him out early, he'll put you away. Now, another great thing that Lewis has coming from in this fight is that if you want to beat Lewis, the clear path to victory is just take him down. That is clear as day. But, you know, Junior doesn't fight like that. Junior's one of these guys going to stand with you. And Junior went out there with a young, brash Tai Tuivasa his last time out. And yes, got the win, but like took a beating in the early portion. He's 35 years old now. Lewis could catch him, and that's just an excellent price tag. The money line's not big enough. The plus 175, I'm not particularly a fan on Derek Lewis. If you are going to bet him, you're likely going to bet him by decision. But then look what he did with Francis Ngannou, where nothing's happening.
You mean inside the distance?
If you're going to bet him, it's going to be, inside the distance. Yeah. But then again, look what he did against Francis. He doesn't pull the trigger. He's notoriously got a bad back. He's a slow starter. He doesn't throw a whole lot of punches. It's just when he does, it's a catastrophic amount of damage. So I think he's worth a DK punt play. But I think I got to think Junior gets the job done here. I'm not fully sold on Junior. He's not super trustworthy, but he is the better fighter. He's faster. He's got better hands. Tell me he doesn't win this fight.
I agree with you. I think JDS wins this fight. This is the type of matchup that we've seen over the years. Slow, lumbering, big heavyweight. JDS just starts landing to the body. We saw it in the Ben Rothwell fight. Everyone thought he was done when he took on Ben Rothwell. And Ben Rothwell was on a great run. He was finishing people left, right, and center. He was wearing his, his cloak from the depths of Mordor and doing whatever type of gimmick that he was doing, which was hilarious, I think, in hindsight. And no, it's a JDS. This is the guy. These are the types of guys he feasts on. The slow, lumbering heavyweight. They can land to the body, maintain distance, keep at range. We've seen Derek Lewis. He gets hit to that body and he has the worst body language of anybody on the roster.
No pun intended.
But it's a heavyweight fight. It's heavyweights are gonna heavyweight. Derek Lewis is not like as you were saying, he's a punt. But he's a great punt because it's not. We're not gonna be shocked if Derek Lewis lands one big, massive overhand and JDS is rendered unconscious. Like, that's generally that's the risk that you're playing in this game. But JDS is going to be so much faster than this guy. We've seen it with Ivanov, Tuivasa, and Rothwell, that he's able to implement this game plan against slow, lumbering, maybe Ivanov not really much of a hard hitter to the same extent as maybe the other two guys.
Yeah,
but then his loss,
Ty busted him up.
His loss is against Miocic. Is just like, well, that's a fast heavyweight.
Same thing.
Those are the types of guys that he struggles against. I think he wins here. But 9,400, like as we were talking about on this card in general, is this card like top to bottom? It's like. But the biggest favorite on this card is Jeff Hughes at minus 220.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that too.
Like it's a crazy card, and like DraftKings pricing is kind of strange because we generally have between 9,500 and 6,700, and then they fill it in kind of based on the odds. But it's like some of these guys who are 94 or 9,300, it's just like you're not really getting much odds value on it. You're paying a really, you're paying like a minus 400, minus 500 price of what we see on usual cards for these guys when they're only minus 200 favorites. This is the fight on the card that has obviously the lowest likelihood of going to decision by the odds, plus 240.
I would agree.
For that to happen. So I think you got to play it regardless. Junior Dos Santos against Taidu Vasa scored 99. That may get it done on a card like this. Against Rothwell in a 5-round fight, he put up 109. And Ivanov 5-round fight, 85. So that would be a bit of a bust type of scenario. Derek Lewis is so low volume. He's got to land the big one. But if he lands the big one, he pays off value too. I like JDS. Yeah. I'm going with JDS. Am I betting JDS at minus 200? Nah. But I'll be playing JDS on DraftKings. That's generally how I look at this one.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, like you said, for $9,400, you expect him to be a 3-1, a 3.5-1, and he's only minus 200, really, minus 210. So we'll see how the thing plays out. That's not a bad price for him. Because I'm agreeing with you. He's faster. He's a better boxer. I think that's exactly what he does, is go to the body. This guy's been hurt to the body many times. And we remember him knocking out Volkov, but people often forget the shit kicking he took from Volkov prior. We remember him knocking out Travis Brown, but we also forget he looked like he was going to take a dookie right there in the octagon. Like, man, he looked whack.
Yep.
It was like, oh my God, why doesn't the ref just stop this fight? And then sure enough, he comes back. But the thing is that he comes back. He's dangerous for 6,800. To me, when I looked at just throwing rosters together, throwing up lineups together, there's not a whole lot of guys that are cheap that they have a solid chance to go out and score 100 points. Lewis is definitely risky. For $6,800, his upside would be that he could score you 100 points.
Yeah.
But JDS is the faster, more agile guy. I think he either picks up a mid to late round stoppage, or it's like the Ivanov fight. He just falls into a rhythm, picks this guy up from the outside, moves around, wins the decision. But Junior would be the play.
We move on to the welterweight division. We have Curtis Millender taking on Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Millender is 8,200 on DraftKings, minus 125 favorite. Zaleski is 8,000 and plus 105. I wish Zaleski had some sort of semblance of like a takedown wrestling game, because that seems to be the best path to victory against Millender. This is going to be a hell of a fun fight. Millender has that long reach, long limbs, uses his length very, very well. And Zaleski's a goddamn maniac, and I love him for that. Super fun to watch, throwing spinning shit all over the place. He takes the fight to you, and hell, both of these, like the fight to go to the distance in this one's minus 145, so the books are favoring it slightly to go to the decision. I just think it's going to be high volume. And Zaleski, when he wins fights, Vendramini, that was not a great performance by him, but 88 points. Sean Strickland knocks him out, gets some knockdowns, 109. Guy throws pretty high volume. I'm leaning ever so slightly to actually not even so slightly. I like Zaleski here, and I'm going to go with Zaleski. Maybe I'm wrong, but he seems to have the more crippling shots when he does land them. Whereas Millender, he had a big performance against Thiago Alves. He scored a bunch of a couple knockdowns in that fight. Like, I don't think that's a repeatable type of strategy for him. But either way, these guys are going to war, and I'm all for it. But give me Zaleski, the slight underdog in this spot. What about you?
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's probably a situation where you'd like to pass just because it seems like it's going to be a very close fight. I want to say dog or pass, and that gives me Zaleski. But my heart's telling me that I think Millender might have the goods to do that. The only reason I'm really backing Millender in the spot is, like you said, you want to take this guy down. He is 17-3. When he loses, guys take him down, guys rough him up. Sire Bahadurzada, tough guy. The path to victory is take this guy down and bust him up. At 6'2", he's kind of long and rangy for the division, and he's an excellent striker. So I almost feel like he's going to be a mid-level talent in the UFC unless he can shore up the ground game. But standing in front of him and winging punches, that is playing into his game. And that's kind of what Zaleski does. Now, prime Thiago Alves would have given us a much better indication of what Millender can do against a pressure fighter. But he fought a shot version of Thiago Alves, who kind of sat there at standing only 5'9", is a shorter guy, knee up the middle, hits him, busts him up. We've seen him get busted up before. It is what it is. His next two fights against Max Griffin and then his last one against Sire Bahadurzada, I just feel like he's a crisp technical, long, rangy striker. And that's going to give guys problems, especially if they want to stand in the front and brawl with them. But when I look at Zaleski, there's a lot of periods of inactivity for him. And he goes out there and he just looks to bang. His ground game's not great as well, by the way. If you look at his early career losses, it's almost always when it's grappling exchanges. So to people that want to say he wants to go and flip the script and use his takedown game and maybe take him down and grind him up, yeah, it would be a good game plan. I just don't really know what he has the means to do it. So now he has to do what he does every time, and that's get into a wild brawl. And he's super fun, and he's entertaining to watch. But in his own fight with Max Griffin, I really thought that Max Griffin was giving him a lot of trouble being the longer, rangier guy. The difference there was Zaleski was able to enter the pocket, hurt this guy bad, and because he had the bigger power advantage, he's able to consistently hurt Max Griffin, sway the judges definitely, win the rounds. Even if he was getting styled on a little bit, even if he was, losing a little bit of momentum, he would just land one big shot and would just rock back in his forward. If he gets into that same type of fight against Millender, who Millender proved in his fight with Max Griffin, he's a better striker. He's the same long-rangey guy, but he's a bit more adequate, sharper, more technical striker. So if Zaleski gets in that same fight, I think Millender wins it. Now, when you look at Zaleski beating Vendrameni, or however you pronounce his name, not a great performance, truth be told. Like, I didn't think he looked great by no stretch of the imagination. And the fight with Strickland, it's like, it's a wheel kick, really cool. But it didn't really give you a great indication of what he brings over the course of 3 rounds. So I'm going to lean towards Millender, but it's probably a pass altogether. And I could see chasing the dog money, but plus 105 is not really dog money. So there's no point in chasing it.
Yeah. I hear you on that. Anyway, let's move on. We got Tim Means taking on Nico Price. Tim Means, 8,800 on DraftKings, minus 200 favorite. Nico Price is 7,400 and plus 170. Well,
I do.
Johnny Walker. Before Johnny Walker, there was Nico Price. I historically can't get this guy right. So it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm going Means. Better striker, crisper striker. I still don't think Nico Price is good. I am willing to back down on my previous statements about Johnny Walker. One, I love the guy. The guy is super entertaining, super fun.
Great personality.
He's just great. He's great. He's great.
He's great.
And 2, yeah, it was like you fade a guy for enough and just like, all right, well, that was a fluke. Okay, well, that was a fluke. Just like, well, no, maybe there's more to it. I just had like that fight against Frankenstein imprinted into my brain. And like he looked like he could be really exploited in that fight. But the guy who has showed up to the UFC, it's been a totally different beast. So good on him. Most hurt that he's got in his fights has been in the celebration of his most recent win. So good on him. I'm on board, which means he's probably going to lose his next fight. But Nico Price, I don't know. Tim Means, Nico Price, he's dangerous. He's a warrior. He likes to come to brawl and stuff. But it's like, if we have a technical striking affair here with Tim the Dirty Bear Means going to chew this guy up.
Yeah, no doubt. But Nico Price seemingly has got heart for days. And Tim Mean is just a nasty motherfucker in there. Like, how could you not be a fan of Tim Means? He's version 1.0 of Matt Brown because, despite being the younger athlete, he's just not as good as Matt Brown. We saw that when they fought. I love me some Tim Means, but I'm not saying he doesn't have no heart. This guy's a warrior through and through. It's that sometimes he's absolutely putting a shellacking on an opponent, and that opponent takes said beating, and then in the second and third round, Tim kind of wilts a little bit. Nico Price has proven that typically he kind of takes a shellacking in the first couple rounds, then comes back. So I think he's dangerous. And I think he's dangerous when you consider he's $7,400 on DraftKings. Again, this is a situation similar to Lewis in that I'm backing the opponent. I got Tim Means winning this fight. Tim Means is a 2-1 favorite, similar to Junior Dos Santos. I see it. I agree with it. But it's hard to get great DraftKings value on this card. And I think that to a certain extent, Nico Price brings it because he's got high upside. Tim Means is a better striker all day. Tim Means is also 35 years old, notoriously doesn't have a great ground game, is 2-2 over his last 4. He's exploitable. You can beat this guy. You got to pressure him. You got to get him to the ground. Yeah, we know he's good in the clinch. We know he's good at range. We know that you probably don't want to stand up for him for a prolonged period of time. But Nico Price pressures him, gets him down. Remember when Price fought Brendan Thatch? The very first time we were wrong on Nico Price. He fights Brendan Thatch, and it's like, oh man, Thatch is just a way better striker than this guy, and he's gonna chew this guy up. And if you watch the fight, he's getting his ass kicked in the first portion of it, but eventually he gets a takedown, and then he ends up submitting him on the ground. I think Tim Means is better on the ground. He's a better wrestler than Brendan Thatch. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying Price is dangerous because he hangs around and fights. Now, yeah, guys like Vicente Luque, and obviously his last fight didn't go his way, but those are guys that are catching him, sharp technical strikers. Maybe Means is able to catch him, but he's just dangerous, Nico Price. Like, he's one of those dogs that won't go away. Like you said, traditionally, not only you, I have not been super great on accurate on Nico Price fights. So I feel like this is another spot where I see Tim Means. I'm attracted to it. Hey, it's the Dirty Bird. Hey, he has entertaining fights. Personally, he's 2-2 in his last 4. He could very well be on a 4-fight winning streak. Like, you know, fights go against him, close fights. But man, I know if I back him hard and I put it down on him, something's gonna go wrong. I just got a bad feeling.
Either.
Got a bad feeling. Remember when Tim Means fought at Cowboy Oliveira, and it's the tale of 2 fights. It's crazy. The first fight, Means comes in, stuffs this guy's takedown, busts him up. Cowboy Oliveira's up against the cage. Tim Means looks super confident, and he lands the illegal knee. It's a no contest. Immediate rematch. Everybody's backing Tim Means. Tim Means is a favorite. He comes in, Cowboy Oliveira picks him up, dumps him on the ground, submits him. It's like, holy fuck, man, what changed? It's like, well, that's the thing with Tim Means, right? When he fought Matt Brown, he's busting this guy up. And then he's not anymore. Matt Brown's still pressuring him, and then all of a sudden he's in a half-hearted guillotine choke and he taps out. It's like, shit. Stuff like that makes me worried that I wouldn't want to back him heavy. I think he wins here, but I'm not super confident in him.
Yeah. I don't like the -200 either.
It's a big price tag.
It is a big price tag. This is a fight that we have to, for our DraftKings team. You have to probably attack this fight, though. Because Nico Price, love him or hate him, like, it's a high-energy fight anytime he fights. He's got a kill or be killed type of mentality. And those are the types of fights, at least on this card, where it's not like, we don't have tons of, like, spots where it's just like, oh, wrestling clinic. Like, there aren't that many type of opportunities. Like, you're chasing finishes on this card. So we'll see where we end up at the end of the week. But yeah, I guess 7,400. It makes sense.
If you were playing multiple lineups, you would consider playing either guy in lineups. Yeah. But in this situation, you have to field one singular lineup, your best effort. You're going to really have to sit down and think. You might believe. You believe Tim Means, but you see the price tag. You might take somebody you deep down think might lose based on a good number. Same thing with Derek Lewis. It's a tricky card because you might have to take somebody you truly might think lose based on the fact that it might have a great return. It's they could be potentially a good play. We got
Blagoy Ivanov taking on Ben Rothwell, and Blagoy Ivanov is 8,400 on DraftKings and a -125 favorite. Ben Rothwell is 7,800 and +105. Who you got?
Well, I'm just happy to have Ben Rothwell back. I didn't know that this day would ever come. Not that he's super old, especially at heavyweight. 37 is not the end of the world, but you know, when you're 35 years old, you're coming out off a loss to Junior Dos Santos, you're coming off a positive USADA test, you take that time on the sideline. Yeah, I don't know. I don't never know if a guy's going to retire or decides he wants to come back. UFC's not interested. They get cut. They end up in Bellator or something. Like, he could have gone and fought somewhere else. I don't know that he's still at that same elite level. When he left, this guy was fun to watch, man. Oh, the Junior Dos Santos fight wasn't a great fight for him, but just so, I don't want to say athletic because like his footwork seems massively,
he's so awkward. He just comes at you like
jerky. But Jesus Christ,
it
Paul,
works. It was effective.
He's light on his feet. He's got a good pressure game. He's got a cast iron chin. He's got a good pressure. Like outside of a few low spots in his career, him gassing against Mark Hunter, him taking a life-changing beating against Cain Velasquez. Like, this guy's durable, man. This guy checks out. I think would beat Blagoy Ivanov all day. But the 2-year layoffs really got to make you think. Now, the thing with Ivanov is I've just never been sold on this guy. Literally never been sold on this guy. His claim to fame was he had beaten Fedor in a combat Sambo match back when Fedor was like the shit. So people all thought, hey, this will translate from turns to MMA, unbeaten. gets stabbed in the heart in a Bulgarian nightclub, goes into a coma, takes a couple years off. Bellator signs him. Cardio is atrocious. I'm surprised the UFC signed him, to be honest. And from what he's shown thus far, obviously a very short tenure thus far, he's just not good. Like, I don't know where he's ever really shown that he was an elite heavyweight at any point. He was a World Series of Fighting champ. Talk about what he beat Josh Copeland on a decision. Hell of a win. Oh, he beat Canada's Smiliano Rama, a 205er on a bad streak right now. It's like, what had really compelled people to believe this guy was great? Now, yeah, combat Sambo's good. His takedown defense is all right. He's fucking durable. This is a guy that got stabbed in the heart in a Bulgarian nightclub, went to a Bulgarian hospital, thank God better than Flin Flon Manitoba Hospital, survived. It comes out of a coma. He lost like 35 pounds or something, puts the weight back on and goes on to win. Or like, nobody's questioning this guy's toughness. It's just he's slow and he's lumbering and he throws hardly not enough offense out for me. So if you watch his fight with Josh Copeland, and you probably shouldn't because it was a horrendous fight to watch, it's just like he's just a little bit better than Copeland, who's just as middling as it gets. And I feel like even though I'm not 100% sure that Rothwell is going to come back as that same, quick Rothwell, it's like he's better striker. He has as good of a chin. He's got a better gas tank. He's faster.
I don't heavyweight, man.
Don't think the fight's gonna hit the ground. If it does, this motherfucker's got a 10-finger guillotine, the go-go choke. Like, do you really want to fuck with this guy? No. So I'm being Ben Rothwell.
I'm a little bit surprised
nervous
by the line. It's been a significant amount of time off. Don't get me wrong.
35 to 37 is a big deal too.
But yeah, but a heavyweight, it doesn't matter as much.
It might
if
not.
this was a flyweight who was missing 2 years at that age, just like those 2 years, he could be so slow and obsolete. It's just like heavyweight, these guys fight until they're 40 anyway.
Okay, but let me flip this on you then, right? You watch Ben Rothwell and you think to yourself, holy shit, man, this guy's 260 pounds and look at him move. And then he tests positive for steroids. And it's like, oh, well, that made sense, I guess. So now 2 years later,
whatever. Like John Jones failed a test last week. Tim Means failed a test. Like, there's so many things that are getting booked for it. Like, let me be honest with you. Ben Rothwell did not look like a guy that I was just like, that guy's on steroids. Who was the other guy, the like Irish guy, fat Irishman, who James something or other. Like, you look like the only thing that he was high on was fucking cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
Mullerin. That guy looked like he's popping hot for Burger King or some shit. He didn't look like he was on steroids.
Remember Tim Sylvia tested positive back in the day and it was like he shaved like a bag of milk. Exactly. What do you mean this guy's on steroids?
I'm sure he was on something that helped him. I don't know the exact, so people in the comments who are probably like, I can't believe that these guys don't know that he tested positive for insert drug here. Yeah, well, you win this round. But I'm not. He wasn't a guy that looked like he was on anything spectacular in the first place. I love him. I love him here. This is a guy that, at least we know with him, he's super durable.
They're both durable.
He's always been able to take a punch. Yeah. He's 7,800 though. 7,800 on DraftKings. Like, maybe we get a go-go choke. We get one of those early finishes. Maybe we get a knockout. Like, and this guy's been durable. That worst case scenario, maybe we get 3 rounds out of him and he loses a decision. It is what it is at heavyweight, because that heavyweight low volume fight like that, sure, that's the type of guy who will sink you. But I don't know. Give me Ben Rothwell. He's the guy I was impressed with before JDS utilized that strategy of go to the body against a big lumbering opponent, and he was able to do it against both of these guys, frankly. And give me Big Ben. Big Ben Rothwell for the win, plus 105. I'll be making a wager on that, and he will be a cornerstone of my DraftKings
King of
lineups.
Kenosha.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hopefully he's back to business. We got Beneil Dariush taking on Drew Dober. Beneil Dariush is 9,000 on DraftKings, minus 200 favorite. Drew Dober is 7,200 and plus 170. A penny for your thoughts, Cody.
Yeah, well, I'm very interested in the fact that Drew Dober is, I don't want to say taking, his first step up in a long time, but Drew Dober is, he's impressive in his wins. It always seems like he's getting a little bit better. You just don't know how he's going to fare against elite level competition, because he's beating the Jason Gonzalez's of the world and the Frank Camachos and the John Tucks and the Josh Berkmans. And if you look at Olivier Aubé-Mercier as that one potential step up in the mix, Well, that's the one he loses. So now him coming in here and taking on Beneil Dariush, it looks like it's going to be rough for old Drew Dober. What I do like about Drew Dober is he comes from an American Muay Thai background, had a pretty decent record come before ever really transitioning into MMA. And when you see him early on in his MMA career, that's what he's all about, you know, and just comes in here pretty green as a striker. Guy transitions a little bit, starts using his grappling. We saw in his fight with Scott Holtzman. Like, Holtzman, not a great grappler, don't get me wrong, but like that's Holtzman's game. And here, Drew Dober comes in and is able to utilize that. He's shown us glimpses of improvements overall. His chin, you seen the shape of that bad boy. See that on the graphic right there? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It's just like that thing's built for combat. He's got a good chin on him. He's got decent grappling. Not great grappling, decent striking. He's kind of good all around. The problem there is that he's taking on a guy in Beneil Dariush that is a specialist on the ground. He's better in that one category than anything Druber does in any category. And his striking's effective as well, right? We've always kind of been impressed with how smart he is, his ring IQ, him able to utilize that body kick from the outside, him able to, you know, tie together his striking with the wrestling game. Not a great wrestler, but because he's able to kind of transition everything together, it's impressive enough. And I feel like this is a guy in Beneil Dariush that at one point people literally thought potential title challenger. At the very least, top 5 contender, top 10 gatekeeper, but here's a guy that belongs at the highest level. The Edson Barbosa fight, he's fighting a good fight. And Edson Barbosa, who is, by the way,
lands the kill
Edson Barbosa, lands just like the nastiest counter, and he was like, oh shit. Sucks. It is what it is. Then he takes on Evan Dunham. He looks awesome. This guy looks like old Beneil Dariush. And like, I don't know, he did fade, and Dunham's one tough son of a bitch when he's on and he's motivated, and he was, and it's a draw. Then the fight with Hernandez. Hernandez is so unheralded. He gets caught with that forearm to the face. He drops. And now it's like we're really writing this guy off. When he fought Thiago Moises, I was all over him. I didn't think he looked great.
He changed his strategy up in that fight.
He changed the strategy.
4 takedowns, 2 advances. He's seemingly understanding that I can't take the damage on my chin, so
he's got the ring
let's
IQ.
use that ground game that I really got into this before going to Kings and
now
Rafael
you and
Cordero and all of that.
You and I, not the biggest fans of, but a lot of respect in the world for Cesar Ferreira, because in many ways he was like, that's what I'm going to do. I have a BJJ black belt and I like to strike and it's fun and the fans cheer, but I'm taking too much damage. I'm just going to go to my jiu-jitsu and against mid-level talent. I'm just way better at jiu-jitsu. I'm going to take these guys down. I'm strong. I'm physical. I'll be able to beat them. And he can. And Beneil Dariush is just much better. This guy was a BJJ world champion before transitioning over. Training at King's MMA, like he's one of the jiu-jitsu coaches. Having Kelvin Gastelum, who's just getting ready for a title fight in the gym as one of his chief sparring partners. The guy's always in great shape. His jiu-jitsu is fantastic. And he's realized, I have good striking, but why go out with the game plan of strictly outstriking these guys? What I got to do is go out, play the game, get those takedowns. By the way, Thiago Moises is also a BJJ black belt. And you really got an impression there, oh fuck, Beneil Dariush is on another level. Now I know Chiesa choked him out. Shit happens sometimes. But like, that's his bread and butter. And maybe to a certain extent, he got away from it a little bit. So when I see this matchup against Drew Dober's not one of those deadly strikers that's going to be able to catch Beneil Dariush and knock him out standing. He'll have to chip away at him for a prolonged period of time. His takedown defense is not good enough that I don't think Beneil can get him down in spots. And if the fight does hit the ground, it's Beneil all day. It took Obey Mercier a round and a half to choke out Drew Dober. So I would expect Beneil Dariush, by the way, a better grappler than Obey Mercier. If the fight hits the ground and he takes his back, he should choke him out. Now, Dober actually didn't look bad in that Obey Mercier fight for the first little bit, but eventually he gets taken down and he gets submitted. So don't worry if you feel Beneil Dariush kind of doesn't look great early. He should be able to figure it out, ground him, and from there take over. So looking at it, $9,000, it could go to decision, but if it does go to decision, multiple takedowns, multiple ground transitions, and hopefully enough ground and pound to make it worth my while. And if he is able to just take him out midway through the second, sometime in the third, with those takedowns, with those ground transitions, he'll make it worth his while. I can see Beneil Dariush as a viable play.
I agree, yeah. And minus 170 actually is the interesting thing about this. Minus 170 to go to decision. So it's actually one of the more likely fights on the card to go to decision. Third most likely on the card, which is pretty surprising to me because I do see a significant advantage on the ground for Beneil Dariush. And I know Drew Dober has made improvements in his career, but He got subbed a lot of his earlier losses in his career all by submission. He hasn't taken on a guy with this type of ground game in a long time. I guess I should have said at some point, odds and lines are subject to change. See website for actual odds. If you or anybody you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Good call.
Moving on down the card, we have Omari Akhmedov taking on Tim the Barbarian Boetsch. Akhmedov 8,500 minus 130. Tim Boetsch is 7,700 and plus 110. There are so many things going on with this fight. In terms of one, Akhmedov used to fight at 170. Tim Boetsch has fought as high as 205. He has been a middleweight for most of his career, but there is a perceived, we haven't seen them next to each other yet. There's a size disparity potentially here. Akhmedov, incredibly durable over the course of his career. Won against Razak Al Hassan by decision. And we know that guy throws heaters. And Tim Boetsch, grappling, he's a strong, big, solid guy, but he can be exploited on the ground. He has that judo background, but, Antonio Carlos Jr. cut through him like a hot knife through butter. In general, it's just really hard to say. There's actually plus 145 for this one to go to a decision. So it's more likely that this one gets finished inside the distance, which makes me start to think about maybe Tim Boetsch just in terms of his size. But this guy is so slow, so lumbering at this point. It's really hard to know what stage of his career is. Every once in a while, though, Tim shows back up and lands some damaging shots. But Omari Akhmedov has been so durable over the course of his career that it's really tough to get behind the concept of Tim Boetsch knocking out a guy like Akhmedov. I don't know. Maybe you can add some clarity to this one for me, because I've been tossing and turning. Well, it's not like I'm losing sleep over this fight. Don't get me wrong, but I've been tossing and turning, trying I'm every 25 minutes I'm jumping onto the other side. Do you have a hot take on it?
Yeah, well, I think, again, in many ways, the theory on it reminds me a lot of the main event in Derek Lewis, where it's he could be getting shit kicked for the first portion, but at least he's dangerous enough to make that comeback. Tim Boetsch is not the most talented of guys, and yet he's made a career predominantly outside of, I guess, spoiling Hector Lombard's official UFC debut, that shit split decision. He's made a career off these little comebacks where he's losing and then he turns it around. The Yushin Okami fight, obviously the most notable example of that. But the Brad Tavares fight, he's getting beat up, and then eventually he comes out and he claps him. There's multiple examples of Tim Boetsch just kind of coming out there. Maybe the Johnny Hendricks fight, wilt this guy down, finish him late. The Josh Salmon fight, losing early, tires the guy out, wilts him late. Rest in peace, Josh Salmon, by the way. And finishes these guys late. He's such a workman, he's got durability for days. Yeah, old Hendo bombing straight in the jaw when you walk straight down the line on him. That Ed Herman knee, I had Herman in the fight, totally didn't think he was going to knock him out, though. It was fuck, knee right up the middle to the face. It is what it is. But traditionally, he's durable. He can take you into some deeper waters. He can tire you out and hopefully finish you later on in the fight. And as much as you were here saying that Omari Akhmedov is a super durable guy, I don't know if I agree with that, because when he was fighting at 170, and maybe it's different at 185, when he was fighting at 170, he fought Sergio Moraes. He wins the first round. He wins the second round. The third round, he gets super tired, gets caught, knocked down the third. His very next fight he fought Zaleski dos Santos. He's competitive through the first two rounds. In the third round, he got real tired and he got knocked out. So he's got a tendency of pushing an awesome pace through the first two and then totally fucking tiring out. The Razak Al Hassan fight actually is a split decision, super close. And his last fight against Vettori, it didn't really gas, but at the same time, it was I think he's going to have a tendency. Right. So the best examples of him getting tired and getting finished late are at 170. So at 185, he's going to cut less weight. But if it does get into a gritty, grinding affair with Tim Boetsch, this is what Tim Boetsch has made an entire
Tim
career
Boetsch round
of.
3 live.
If it makes it to round 3, Akhmedov.
Hopefully he's down 2 rounds. We go to round 3.
If it goes to round 2 and I see Akhmedov look up at the clock one single time, and I would bet Tim Boetsch. What I'm saying is it feels like one of those spots where Boetsch could be a live dog again, in that when he feels really shot, like when he feels like he's all the way done, he pulls one more through. The Johnny Hendricks fight, he pulled one more through. Then he gets smoked by Carlos Jr., and now he's been off a year. He's 38 years old. He trains out of Maine. He pretty much trains himself. I can't really in good consciousness sit here and tell you bet Tim Boetsch. But the writing's on the wall. So I wouldn't be overly shocked if he was to pull it off. But again, I would have to say Akhmedov is reasonably the favorite for a reason. And like you said, the odds was it wasn't going to go to decision.
Plus 145.
Yeah, I don't know if I trust that.
Maybe they just don't. Well, you were talking about Akhmedov.
Slop. It could be a sloppy fight.
I do too.
Him versus Lombard 2.0.
But it
where
was
they just
slop, and then round 3 he gets a finish. So
yeah, maybe. But if he doesn't get the finish, he's going to score you nothing.
Yeah, I know.
And Akhmedov is not above scoring people nothing.
Yeah,
it could be close. It could be a blowout. I don't really know what to expect.
I really struggle. I want to see these guys standing next to each other. I want to see the size, see how much of an advantage Tim Boetsch has in terms of size. If it's really close, then I'm going to be even more torn than I am right now. Stand by for confirmation. I'm sure I'll say something stupid about it on Twitter. At Paul Shag to follow the stupidity. All right, now moving on down the card, we have Rocco Martin. He's no longer Tony Martin.
No, and he earned that nickname. Full name his last time out got me. He got me.
Yep. So Rocco Martin is 9,200 on DraftKings, a minus 200 favorite. Sergio Moraes is 7,000 and plus 170. Sergio Moraes coming off of two straight wins. Ben Saunders in his last time out, and Tim the Dirty Bird Means, which was pretty much a robbery.
They call him the Dirty Bird, Tim Means. I call that a dirty decision in Brazil. That was wrong.
Yeah, I think significant strikes were 129 to 88.
Yeah. He won the first round. I give him that. But I was I don't know what the hell happened after that.
It was pretty bad. It was a bad decision. But technically, his only loss in the UFC is to Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
So now listen, I'm a Rocco Martin hater. I'm willing to accept this. I don't think I ever picked this guy. But he comes from a great gym. He's making super improvements every single time out. If this fight was in Brazil, it's a bit of a different type of ball game that we're playing here. But one thing that he goes to is that submission game. When he tries to get the fight to the ground, when he gets a tired, wounded opponent, he looks for his what's the choke that I'm trying to think of?
Darce, from a
Darce choke, yes.
Yeah.
He looks for that. He's got a good ground game. He's been able to exploit a bunch of guys. You aren't doing that shit to Sergio. You are not submitting Sergio Moraes. Get that out of your head.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of value on this card, 7,000 on DraftKings for Sergio Moraes, who is competent on the feet. He's going to be at a disadvantage. He's going to be giving up a lot of reach and all of that type of stuff to Rocco Martin. But this thing hits the canvas. Martin may think that he's got great jits and stuff, but when you're dealing with your jiu-jitsu teacher's jiu-jitsu teacher, not that he is Rocco Martin's jiu-jitsu teacher's jiu-jitsu teacher. One time, Pogi Rock. Happy birthday to Pogi Rock, by the way.
Oh, birthday today?
It's his birthday today.
Birthday, Pogi
One
Rock?
time he called us out and he played the clip at his place. I was watching the fights with him. He's just you were saying that he was his jiu-jitsu teacher's jiu-jitsu teacher. We're no, what we're saying is that Sergio Moraes is on such a level of the game when he gets the fight to the ground that he's so good that he is your teacher's teacher type of situation. And
Ben Saunders is
Rob was trying to put words into our mouths.
Ben Saunders is a Ricardo Laborio black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He is known for his submission game. He has worked extensively with Eddie Bravo. He was asking Sergio for fucking tips after the fight because he was like, "Whoa, man! What the hell was that?" Yeah, that's the expression. He's your jiu-jitsu coach's jiu-jitsu coach. This guy is on another level. Mm-hmm. The problem here, Paul, is if this guy was to walk into your gym, you're gonna say, "Holy fuck, look at this guy. He's here to teach my jiu-jitsu coach a thing or two." And it's hey man, can you show me something? It's "I just want to strike you." It's Fuck you mean you want to strike? Like, he comes in all in his fights, Paul, and I don't understand what it is. He just super content to stand there and wing bombs. Overhand right, never puts more than a two-piece together. Generally just a really rangy, long-ass jab on him, and then the right hand. The problem there is that he's taking on Rocco Martin, the fighter formerly known as Tony. And the guy's just got a nasty jab and a very crafty straight right. A lot of speed, a lot of, it's an ill-advised right hand.
And he is smart.
Yeah, and you know what? He's
going to maintain range. He's going to stay at distance. He's going to piece him up.
Here's the thing.
And this will be...
Sergio's not going to take him down.
He doesn't have the wrestling.
Because his wrestling is fucking atrocious.
Yeah.
He's got a good outside trip, but none of it's wrestling. It's jiu-jitsu moves. It's stuff where you grab a gi and trip, like a foot sweep. He's got a decent foot sweep, but that's not going to work on Rocco Martin, to be honest. And if the fight does hit the ground, Sergio's on a complete different level. I would be very worried for Rocco Martin. But it's not like he's a complete fish out of water. He's a brown belt and he's a good brown belt. As you said, training at American Top Team right now, dating Kayla Harrison, the former judo gold medalist. Things are going good from 3-fight winning streak, looking nasty in these 3 fights. Knocks out Ryan LaFleur, durable guy that retired afterwards.
Sure.
And then
terrible DraftKings player though. Looking into Rocco
Tony.
Martin is awful. He is. I think he had like 68 versus Matthews, 69 versus like Nakamura. Don't quote me on these. These are close. And then the LaFleur one, which is like he got 95 points in that one, 2 knockdowns. He needs those knockdowns, 10 points a pop. Otherwise, like all 3 of them. It's just, and now he's 9,200. It's just like if we think of his style and how he fights this fight, he does not score 100 points here. You're going to need him if he's 9,200 on DraftKings. You are going to need him to either get knockdowns or just put up so much volume, which he just doesn't do. He's going to maintain range. He's going to stay at distance. He's going to piece him up. He's going to throw that jab.
He's way too expensive.
He's way too expensive to play on DraftKings. Like it's Sergio or bust on DraftKings.
Yeah. No, because honestly, my gut tells me he could knock out Sergio Moraes. Kamaru Usman caught this guy. Usman's not really a power puncher. His striking's getting better. He proved that over the weekend. But especially at that time, it's like, it doesn't got great striking on him. He's a grinder. If Rocco puts hands on this guy, he knocked out Ryan LaFleur. He knocked out his last opponent, Jake Matthews, a young, upstart that he took on an aging veteran, took him out. A young upstart, take him out. Could he come out here and maybe knock out Sergio Moraes? Yeah. But Tim Means wasn't able to do it. Tim Means had to settle into a rhythm and just pick away at this guy. And I expect Rocco to do the same thing. And for 9,200, it's a big price tag. The minus 200, honestly, I don't think that's that bad. There's a lot of danger if the fight hits the ground, but I don't see it hitting the ground unless that's what Martin wants.
Unless
it's not
Martin
what he wants, so why would he do that?
Martin has been, the one thing you can credit for him is pretty smart in there.
Yeah.
He makes the right decisions. He knows that the ground is death. Maybe not death, but like the ground is danger in this fight against Sergio. So, I don't know. I think it's Moraes surpass generally from this fight.
On a DraftKings perspective. Yes.
Just 9,200 is way too expensive. Let's move on. We've got Yana Kunitskaya taking on Marion Reneau. Yana Kunitskaya, 8,900 on DraftKings, minus 170 favorite. Marion Reneau is 7,300 and plus 150. Who you got?
Yeah, I would advise that you pass on this fight in terms of DraftKings, just because I really think that the path there for Kunitskaya is just take this girl down and grind her. And I think that's what she proved in her last fight. She's more than capable of doing it. She's more than willing to doing it. And it's not that Renault's not good off her back. She's crafty off her back. We've seen her throw up nice submissions in the past. I believe she recently got her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt.
Submitted Sarah McMahon.
She submitted Sarah McMahon off her back. Sorry, not off her back, but just got the late submission. And then she has the win over, is it Jessica Andrade? She's got the triangle choke over. It's like, this girl's crafty. She's a long-time brown belt. The problem,
full-time gym teacher.
Full-time gym teacher. Good power for the division. She's got good power. Doesn't really tie multiple punches together at a time, but it's almost like Sam Alvey syndrome sometimes. It's like she just stands there and just lets it happen, gets outworked, and I hate it. There's the glimpses where it's like awesome. The Ashley Evans Smith fight, it's like, oh man, this girl, there's potential there. But outside of it, it's like she's just not doing enough. And with Kunitskaya, it's easy to overlook her because she got smoked out by Cyborg in her debut, but I was at 45, and now that she's back at 135, she's strong, she's physical, she's full-time out of Greg Jackson's camp. Jackson Winklejohn in Albuquerque. And I really liked what I saw her last time out, and that she can get the takedowns. She's got nasty top pressure. And a problem that you get into when you're someone like Marion Reneau is you've got good submissions off your back. So you start playing that game a little bit. Instead of just trying to get back up to your feet, you start playing the game of trying to submit your opponent off your back. And it works here and there, but it doesn't always work. And this is one of those spots that I don't see it working. I see her just being on her back for prolonged periods of time. She's strong. She's agile. She's also in her 40s. And for whatever reason, her takedown defense has never really been shored up. Like you said, full-time gym teacher. She's got other shit on the go. Remember when she was like, her very first UFC fight, she's like, I got into MMA recently. She did jiu-jitsu, but she got into MMA recently because I want to just save up a little bit of money for my kids' college like fund. I'm just doing it as a hobby. I'm a full-time gym teacher. It's something I want to be able to tell my students, like, hey, look, chase your dreams. And it's like 5 years later, she's still doing the damn thing. 4 years later, she's still doing the damn thing in the UFC. All the props in the world to Marion Reneau, but the takedown defense just isn't there. And I think that's what's going to cost her against Kunitskaya. So I think Kunitskaya for the decision win. Minus 170, I would have to get the better value in saying it's going to be her by decision. The 8,900, like, there would have to be so many takedowns. And the problem with Reneau is she's
like
not
4 in her last time out. And that was against
Landsberg.
Who's like atrocious.
But is big and strong. And Reneau is not big, but she's strong. She'll give her more problems than Lena Landsberg did. She's way better grappler than Lena Landsberg is, but I see her getting grinded for at least 2 of these 3 rounds.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just kind of see Yana Kunitskaya as someone who, is fully invested in this, living in Vegas, going to the Performance Institute.
Oh, she's in Vegas now. I saw.
She's been doing that for a while.
Last time I checked her, I thought she was in Albuquerque still, but she might have moved out to Vegas.
Anytime they do one of those videos from the Performance Institute, she's
there,
always there. You know,
well, good. She's putting in the
Dominance
time.
MMA one, was it Anatomy of the Fighter or whatever? The one run by Ali and all. It promotes all of those guys. She's always there.
Right.
She is always at the Institute. So I see somebody who's really putting in full time versus somebody who's a teacher on the side.
And a mother.
So yeah, give me Kunitskaya. Yeah, but to really score, we're gonna need tons of takedowns. I don't know if we're gonna really see that. Minus 215 to be finished inside to go to decision.
Yeah, that's what I see.
That is most likely to go to decision on the card, and I can't really fault it. I can't really fault Vegas for the line on that one, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, it's a pass on DraftKings. We move on down. We got Grant Dawson taking on Julian Juicy J Erosa. Grant Dawson, 8,700 minus 170 favorite. Julian Erosa is 7,500 and plus 150. Well, let me tell you a thing or two. Sorry to our buddy YC Lindsay, but Julian Erosa has no chin. That's not exactly a secret at this point. There's one, YC Lindsay. You probably ain't.
Yeah. No. Oh yeah,
this guy is like
now, right?
the only fan of Julian Erosa on Twitter.
Right,
God bless him.
Juicy J.
God bless him. He's a fan. He's a fan of him. Brian Caraway, like, he's got a weird taste in my favorite fighters here. Good on ya. Stick to your guns. But Grant Dawson in his Dana White Contender Series fight, I did like that. Like, he looked relentless in his pursuit of the takedown.
Whoa. Did he ever?
He looked smart. That was his best path to victory against the guy that he was taking on. I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now.
Adrian Diaz.
This thing is a Julian Erosa fight. Julian Erosa usually loses by TKO in some way, shape, or form if he's going to lose. Otherwise, he's a kill or be killed type of guy himself. So I don't know what his ground game is like, what his jiu-jitsu is like, but I like Dawson. I think it's the hometown guy. He fights out in Nebraska. He's a Glory MMA and fitness kind of guy. We're in Kansas. Like, this is a hometown fight, hometown guy.
You're 100% right there.
This is the hometown guy here. And I like what I saw from him is that this guy's going to pursue takedowns. Give me Dawson. Give me Dawson all day. I don't know if I'm going to bet him yet, but on DraftKings, 8,700, with all the numbers kind of pointing towards him being the hometown guy, everything kind of leads me towards I want Grant Dawson on my team. What about you?
I've had really bad success with Julian Erosa because I'm one of these guys that sees the skill and tends to back him from time to time. And like the chin's just not there. But I don't know that this is a spot necessarily that he's got to worry about the power punching abilities of Dawson. Dawson is through and through a grappler. He'll use his striking long enough to get a hold of you and getting you to the ground, where he'll relentlessly pursue the takedown. And when he is on top, he relentlessly pursues ground and pound until he gets the submission. I really like his top game. But as far as the striking goes, it's hard to even get a read on it because you don't really see that much of it. It's just basically used to get the fight to the ground. With Erosa, the guy is super mobile. He uses a good range for his frame. He plays the outside. He's got good footwork. His striking, I'm not going to say it's got a ton of power behind it, but he'll throw head kicks. He'll throw elbows. He'll throw nasty strikes that can get your attention. People would say that he has no chin, but again, he's generally fighting power punchers. His last fight against Smith, it's like, fuck, dude, this guy packs. Like, this guy throws absolute heavies. His fight against Artem Lobov, it's like, man, it's Artem Lobov, and he's very one-dimensional, but if he hits you, he's got a lot of power. His fight against Teruto Ishihara, it's like, again, guy's not very good, but he's got one tool, and that's his power. He had a good straight left. So Julian Erosa often gets caught by that power, but maybe he doesn't face it here. If this fight's not in Kansas, that dog money at plus 150, and I think it's going to get better. You'll get a better price on it. I'd be tempted because I think this guy could play the perimeter game. I think Dawson will come out hot early. Dawson will try to tie him up and get those takedowns early, but ultimately he's going to have to make Dawson work. Here's the notable thing about Dawson is you look at all of his fights: ground and pound round 2, ground and pound round 2, punches round 1, triangle choke round 1. Fight against Adrian Diaz, submission, round 2. He's a finisher. He's a potent finisher. He goes out there and he has his ways with guys. Julian Erosa's got nearly 30 pro fights. He's got a lot of experience. His submission defense over 30 pro fights has largely checked out. His grappling's
people
not...
just usually pummel his head and he goes unconscious.
Right. But the guy's a tricky son of a bitch with that head kick. So what I'm saying is if he gets dominated in the early portion but simply just survives, in the second and third round, if Dawson gets tired, he could either finish him late, I don't see it happening, or he could just do enough to win 2 or 3. But fighting the hometown guy in Kansas, maybe winning 2 and definitively winning 3, not enough, because they'll give 1 and 2 to him and you're going to lose on it. And sorry, the last thing on it is people again talking about Erosa being chinny. Dawson's on a 3-fight winning streak, but the 4th fight ago, he got knocked out by Hugh Pulley in 39 seconds with an elbow strike. So is this guy chinny and just got knocked down in 39 seconds? I don't know. It's the fight game. Either guy could catch either guy. If I'm looking at the striking advantage is Erosa, the grappling advantage is Dawson. But people write off Erosa because of the chin, right? If the chin's not checked here and it's just how good's his grappling defense, maybe he survives long enough to make it interesting. I haven't, as you've noticed, taken a whole lot of dogs on this card. The plus 150 to me is tempting, but going against the hometown guy after seeing all these hometown guys win close decisions over the last 4 or 5 weeks, fuck that. Not going Juicy J. It's not. Sorry, YC. You're a good guy. I can't go Juicy J.
He tried to mount some sort of argument for your boy there, YC.
He's got a shot.
Hey, we're not putting him on our Ironman lineup.
No,
I am putting my foot down. We are not putting Juicy J in that lineup.
No, I know. But when he fought Jamal Emmers on Dana White's Contender Series, it's like Jamal Emmers is gonna run this guy.
Yeah.
But like he survives, he's tricky, he lands the head kick. This is kind of gives me a similar feeling. It's like he's supposed to run rickshaw on him, but he's a grappler. So if he doesn't knock him out and this becomes dicey, the skill's there. Erosa's not terrible. He's not the worst guy in the UFC, as you like to say, right? He's not.
I'm laughing right now because it's like Cody pauses.
Because I knew you were thinking it.
Well, no, because I'm switching. For anybody who's like watching, I'm switching, writing notes, looking at our timer. We've got a lot of things on the go here. You would pause, so then I would switch, and you're literally throwing me off.
Sorry, buddy. All I got to say is last week I was not in studio, and so we had to Skype it in, or Zoom it in. This week, Chad is not in studio, so I'm sorry. Paul is actually switching the show all by himself, and that is a pain in the ass. So my apologies.
No, you don't have to apologize. Switching, making time codes. Literally, the show doesn't exist.
Man of many talents.
The show doesn't exist if I'm not here anymore, to be perfectly honest. Let's move on. We got Jeff Hughes taking on Maurice Greene. Jeff Hughes, 9,300 on DraftKings, minus 220 favorite. Maurice Greene is 6,900 and plus 180. You were right on Maurice Greene last time out, where you had a good feeling about him against Batista.
That's right.
But
this is a different case altogether.
Different case, but like Jeff Hughes, like,
ooh, he's not that good. No,
he's not very good. I was
But
like, does this guy have like?
Ago.
What's that?
He just beat this guy not that long ago.
Oh, they fought against each other on the
LFA, yeah, regional, yeah.
Well, I didn't see that fight, so you take it away on this one.
Yeah, well, it should be rinse and repeat the same thing. Jeff Hughes is obviously there's not a whole lot of big heavyweights in the world, but Jeff Hughes, 6'2", 250 pounds, big enough guy, full-time training partner of Stipe Miocic. So that's kind of his claim to fame, is that he's one of these tough, I don't want to say lumbering guys, but he doesn't seem like he's great in any one art. He's not a guy that grew up wrestling. He's not a guy that grew up boxing or anything like that. He picked it up, I think, a little bit later and has been fighting either as an amateur or as a professional for the last 10 years. He's putting the skills together, but I'm not overly impressed with him. The one thing he seems to have, pretty damn good cardio. Like, he can push a pace on you. Maurice Greene, guy's like 6'8". He's a good character. You know, one eye's looking at you, one eye's looking at Rick. He's on The Ultimate Fighter. He was literally that season. Apparently a huge creep, loves to smoke cigs. He's dangerous because of his sheer size. He actually spent a little bit of time kickboxing professionally as well, competed for the Glory kickboxing promotion, but like, he's not great. He's dangerous and he's long. And Batista is awful. Yeah, he's 1-1 in wrestling matches with Daniel Cormier 15 years ago. Batista's awful. And he went into that triangle choke. It is what it is. Hughes, not going to happen. The last time they fought, LFA, 3-round fight, and Hughes just goes through the motions. Gets up on this guy, closes the distance, takes him down, grinds him out, peels him back down, gets him tired, grinds him out, peels him back down. What's interesting is that he beats him, it's a 5-round fight. It goes all 5, and Hughes never gets tired. His cardio checks out the entire time. Greene, once he gets taken down, he doesn't really got any submissions to throw up. He gets controlled. He loses. 5-round fight. As soon as he lost that fight, he tried out for the Ultimate Fighter. Got into the house, won his first fight over an absolute nobody, and fought Juan Espino, who ended up winning the season, but was like 3-1 and was a Spanish grappler. Very one-dimensional. He takes him down, he submits him in the first round. Then he beats Batista, and now he's getting this rematch. This rematch was not supposed to take place. It was simply a case of they like Jeff Hughes. He's the former
Hughes
LFA
was
champ.
supposed to fight Daniel Spitz.
He's supposed to take on Daniel Spitz. He's getting the treatment of, oh, here's a former LFA champion.
Yeah.
He wins the title. He defends the title. Sorry, he does not defend the title. He wins the title, and then he won it over Odoms. He defended it against Maurice Greene. That was his title defense. Then he takes a fight on Dana White's Contender Series and wins that as well. First round over Josh Appel. Looks terrible physically, but was it a stiff enough test? Beats Josh Appel. There's some promise to this guy. Now, flip side to that, you got Maurice Greene. He's coming off the Ultimate Fighter. There's not really much we can do with this. He's taking the fight on a week's notice. He was openly smoking on the Ultimate Fighter. And this is like, you have a fight coming up. So what the fuck you think he was doing when he didn't think he had a fight coming up? It seems like he trains, like he's not super dedicated. He's not out of a big camp. He did not move. He won his last fight. Why change anything? Mm-hmm. So he's going to come in with that same mentality versus a Jeff Hughes that has a full camp in. Here's a guy that hasn't actually had a full camp. I think his last fight maybe was his first time having a full camp, and he gets the knockout. Prior to that, he takes fights on like a week's notice, 2 weeks' notice, because it's hard to find opponents. He's a heavyweight on the regional scene. It's hard to get somebody to fight this guy. So now that he's been able to train full-time, get 8 weeks under his belt, get prepared, he already had good cardio. He'll be in peak, good position, good form to go out there and take Maurice Greene and do the exact same thing he did the last time. Only Greene should be less prepared to handle that because he's taking the fight on short notice. Mentally, this guy seemed like a basket case on the Ultimate Fighter. Like, he was in his own head. Like, he had self-doubt issues, he had confidence issues, and then that's why he would, sometimes come off as an asshole to people because he's just reflecting, right? But a week's notice, having already lost this guy, like, unless he just lands a bomb early, I don't see it happening. Hughes has gone 5 rounds in his fight against Greene the last time, and he also went 5 rounds in a fight with Dan Spone where he was finished in the 5th round. But like, this guy's gone deeper into fights. He generally wins decisions. He's got the cardio. He'll just take him down and smash him. The thing is that the $9,300 Greene's so big, Paul. If you take him down, he's not going to get back up. Just similar to what we saw with Stefan Struve. Stefan Struve's on the ground with 4 minutes and 50 seconds in the round, but he cannot get back up because he's just so damn big and long. It's not like a little guy that just needs a little bit of space to explode and get back up. So if Hughes goes and completes 3, maybe 4 takedowns, that's all he's going to get in the fight is 3 or 4 takedowns. That's 20 points. Ground and pound, it's not vicious. Submission game, it's not great. He's already gone 5 with this guy once, so there's no reason to believe that he's going to finish him even though it's only a week notice. So for the $9,300 that he is, he could very well win and score you 70 points, 60 points, 70 points, maybe 80 points. Just too high of a price tag. But should he win? Well, he's the biggest favorite on the card for a reason. He's got an opponent coming here on a week's notice whom he's already defeated, and he looks to be a decent prospect and trains with the former champion. Yes, he should be the favorite. I do believe he wins, but don't like the pricing on him.
Well, now that you don't like the pricing on him.
Did you like the pricing on him?
No.
Yeah.
I actually was like, oh, is this guy a good wrestler? Blah, 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 blah.
He's a
And then I watched
wrestler.
I watched his tape. And I was just like, eh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I knew that would have been the path, but it's just like, and I guess he had done it before. I haven't watched that fight yet, obviously. But yeah, no. Watching the tape, I was just like, well, this ain't it, Chief, as the kids say. Let's move on down. We have Louis Smolka taking on Matt Schnell. Louis Smolka, 8,300, a minus 120 favorite. Matt Schnell, your boy, is 7,900 and plus 100. Louis Smolka, last time out was, looks like he came back from having some drinking issues, having some sort of other mental issues and stuff like that.
Did he mention he's got like full custody of his daughter and they're living in the States now? They're living in California.
A lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, he's got a kid. He's got a drinking problem. He's training with Timo Yama now in California.
He took on Suma Derji. And
in China, it was the hometown
and that was
guy
a dangerous striker. But it's like once he got him to the ground, it was a freaking clinic. Looking at Matt Schnell, and you have been like...
a soft spot for Matt Schnell.
You do have a real soft spot for Matt Schnell, and maybe you shouldn't. This guy's never returned... he's never got 10 times value in any of his fights, even the ones that he's won. Never got 10 times value based on his price on DraftKings and winning. Now, based on how Smolka fights, is when the fight gets to the ground and the amount of scrambles and stuff like that, maybe if Matt Schnell was able to pull off a win against Louis Smolka, this would be the first time that he would ever be able to do it because he has the right type of opponent who will fight that fight, play a lot of scrambles and so on and so forth. And that's where the points really add up. This fight is pretty much a pick 'em to go to decision. Give me Smolka because I've never really been on board with Schnell. I don't really see what you see, but that's just me. And I think that this is a guy who is like maybe turned the corner, got some of his life back together. Seems to be a much better at 135. 125 is killing him. We were seeing him show up like Skeletor to the weigh-ins and stuff. Like, hopefully Smolka is a guy who has put it all back together and is going to go on a little bit of a streak here. I think he gets through Matt Schnell. And at 8,300, Smolka is the kind of guy that can really go off if he's able to implement his game plan.
Yeah, I agree. No, listen, I got a soft spot for Matt Schnell because like he's the reason why I truly believe anybody can make it to the UFC. Anybody that had decided probably before you missed the boat on it that I want to be a MMA fighter could have done it. Matt Schnell was on that MTV show Caged, MTV yeah. Caged. He's just like a young kid, man, in backwater Louisiana with a dream that I want to make it. And there's like 3 other kids on the show that they're all fighting and like they never made it past the amateur ranks. One other guy, Tony Kelly.
Yep.
But outside of that, it's like nobody went pro. This kid went pro. He left Louisiana. Dustin Ortiz did the same thing. Left Louisiana, went to ATT, put in the time, grinded on the regional scene, made it to the Ultimate Fighter, won his first fight over Matthew Rizzo. Oh, lost a heartbreaker. Off the show, makes it to the UFC, loses his first 2 fights in the UFC. No way this guy should still be in the UFC. He loses his first 2 fights after losing on the Ultimate Fighter. But they keep him around. And fuck, man, he gets 2 wins. And they're not pretty wins. And they're against one guy in Inoue who might be the shit, like 5, 6, 7 years down the road, but is just a young guy. and one guy in Marco Beltran, who's just like the shits. Like, no good. But good for Schnell. It's not that I'm big on him because of his skill. I'm big on him because of his character. This is a good kid. This is a hard worker. And this is a guy that's always in the gym, always improving, always making those adjustments and kind of treading upwards, just not super quick. Whereas Louis Smolka had a drinking problem, right? This guy's career kind of went to shit. He was not fighting at his peak performances. Now, mind you, he usually fought a who's who of absolute killers, but not fighting to, the level that we all know and have come to expect from him. Then gets cut, then gets clean, then comes back. If he's back, he's going to roll Schnell up for sure. It's tough for me to really know if he is. I'm going to back him here. And the main thing is that I honestly feel Schnell's a better boxer. Schnell is faster than this guy. He's going to be in and out of the pocket quicker. The problem with Smolka is that he's got a tendency to stand right upright. And at 5'9", he was always the long rangey guy in the flyweight division. But Schnell's actually 5'8", and I don't think it's going to be a 1 inch on the height department. It's not going to make a difference. The one thing with Smolka is he's got a 68.5 inch reach. Tiny reach for 5'9". Tiny reach in general, really. And Schnell's got a longer reach, like 3 inches on him. So I do think that Schnell's going to beat him standing up. Remember when Smolka fought Richie Vakalik? He's down 2 rounds going into the third before he knocks him out. Just because Richie's a little bit quicker, a little bit just in and out of the pocket, hit this guy a couple times, get out. And Smolka stands upright, follows him around. If Smolka's at his worst, that's what he'll do. And Schnell has the means to squeak out a close decision. But the thing is that Schnell has got porous takedown defense. Like that, it's let him up in all his fights. Rob Font took him down. His fight with Hector, what's his name?
Sandoval.
Hector Sandoval. He got taken down 3 times. One of those times, I think he actually pulled it for the guillotine, so I wouldn't really fully credit it. He doesn't look like he's bad off his back. He's really not bad off his back, but he does get taken down. And the problem with Smolka is that he goes in sometimes with the game plan of just wrestling these guys, taking them down. When he does take you down, he styles on you. We saw that in his last fight against a young Chinese kickboxing prospect. But like, remember when he fought Ben Nguyen? It's like, damn, when this guy's on top, he styles.
Yeah,
now, people will say, man, didn't look good against Ray Borg. Sure. Didn't look good against Tim Elliott. It's like, yeah, we're talking about the best guys in the division. That
that Tim Elliott
he's
fight.
Not out grappling those guys.
That Tim Elliott fight was like he scored. Tim Elliott scored 175 in that one.
Hey, he broke DK.
Yeah, until Max Holloway broke DK.
Borg did the same thing. He scored upwards of 100 points in just styling on this guy. But in order to style on a guy, the guy's got to keep fighting back.
I think Smolka scored 61 points in a loss in that fight.
In a loss.
So, no, he's completely fine.
So I feel like even though he might get outboxed or outstruck in the early portion, is that at some point he's going to take Matt Schnell down. When he does, I think that's when he's going to defeat him. As far as Schnell, people say he's chinny. I don't really buy into it all that much.
And Smolka's not, he's not a power puncher. Like, this is not.
And Smolka's not a power puncher.
That shouldn't be a danger.
Yeah. But as you said, he's only $8,300. He's minus 120 on the line. He could get a second or third round submission or style on the ground.
Yep.
So I hate to give away, the play, but I think Smolka for $8,300 is a damn fine play.
Yeah,
good value.
He's one of my favorite plays.
I would be definitely looking at that.
We'll go into the next fight here. And this fight, I'm going to go really, really quickly through this one. Doesn't really interest me at all. We have Alex Morono taking on Zach Otto. Alex Morono is 9,100 on DK and a minus 185 favorite. Zach Otto is 7,100 and plus 160. Frankly, this fight to go to decision, minus 200. Both of these guys, super, super low volume when they are striking, when they're on their feet. I think Otto may actually have the grappling advantage, but doesn't really have the wrestling to get it there. The one time with Alex Morono that we've seen high volume, or at least the highest volume we've seen, is the last time out against Kenan Song. 99 significant strikes. He scored like 78 points. To get up to 9,100, like, he would need a knockout of Otto. Otto has been pretty durable all the way around. I think this is kind of a low volume, low paced fight. Goes to decision. I would lean, I guess, towards Alex Morono, but don't feel great about it. it's an easy stay away on DraftKings for me, and I don't really have a hot take from a betting perspective, so it's just a straight up pass. What's your take?
Yeah, if Morono was a better price, maybe to the tune of like 86, 8,700, I would totally try to squeak that one out because he is not a sexy play in the slightest bit. People will definitely overlook him, and this could very well go to decision, but he could catch him. He could catch him on the basis of that you just got to go out there and outwork Zach Otto. These guys, in many ways, kind of mirror each other in that you've got Zach Otto, doesn't seem like a ground specialist, is a BJJ black belt, actually is a part co-owner in that Pura Vida gym in Milwaukee. They have sending a lot of guys to Duke Rufus' camp as well, do some cross training. I think they work out with Eric Schaefer's gym as well. But what I'm getting at is like the guy's a gym owner, BJJ black belt. When he fought Sergio Moraes, he's openly trying to take down Sergio Moraes and lost a split decision in Brazil, but had spent time on the ground with Sergio Moraes and was fine. Doesn't seem like he's an offensive grappler, really, but defensively sound. Alex Morono, he's a BJJ black belt too. Like
is he though?
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Neither guy seems like they are, but they are. They're both grapplers. They're both, technically speaking, that's what their thing is.
Which fight was it that Morono just looked like a complete schlub on the ground? Recently, you're looking at his
I'll bring it up right now.
Refresh my memory, because I remember being like, this guy is not a black belt, man. Right. They gave him that with his Happy Meal or some shit.
Well, I mean, he got out grappled by Keita Nakamura for a split, but Nakamura's a black belt. And he got out grappled by Jordan Mean, where he got like
it was the mean fight. Yeah, it's the mean fight. Just like, all right, never respecting this guy's black belt ever again.
I know, but
because it means nothing.
In his defense, he was credited with one submission attempt, and Mean's big, man. Like Morono is not a big guy for the weight class, but you take on some of these bigger guys, it's like, oh shit. I honestly truly believe both guys wrestling, not very good. Both guys grappling, it'll nullify each other out. They're both black belts. They're both like kind of at that same level of black belt. Should nullify each other out. This is gonna come down to stand up. Who's going to outwork the other guy? And Morono's got a history of going forward and swinging bombs and making it a dirty, gritty fight. That's how he's picked up the wins of his career. Zach Otto, he don't want that, man. I don't think he'll be able to handle that. You mentioned the fact that that Morono had scored 98 significant strikes against Song Kanon. When he fought James Muntasiri, he actually scored 111 significant strikes. But what he did against Muntasiri is the opponent gets tired and he stops moving. Zach Otto, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. His fight with Sage Northcutt, apparently he had a staph infection like 9 days or something before the fight. The issue there is that that's one of the few fights that Zach Otto decides to use his grappling. He goes out, he fucking drops Sage Northcutt with a wicked shot. Northcutt drops, he gets on top of this guy. Northcutt's half unconscious, and it's early into the first round. Unable to capitalize. Northcutt gets up, feeds it to him. Second round starts, Zach Otto is tired. Maybe it's part of the staff. Maybe it's the fact that he's wrestling for a change. Generally, he just stands there and throws low volume striking. His last fight should not have won against Dwight Grant, but it was a close, terrible fight, and he squeaks out a split. His fight with Mike Pyle had no chin. His fight with Kichi Kunimoto, terrible fight, no significant strikes, but he wins a split. So when I look at the numbers especially, if I think to myself, okay, Zach Otto's not going to take down Morono. Morono's not going to take down Zach Otto. We got a striking battle. Zach Otto has put up the following. His fight against Dwight Grant, Paul, he won a decision. He landed 14 significant strikes in a decision victory, okay? His fight against Sage Northcutt, he drops him and gets on him for 3 or 4 minutes. He had 6 significant strikes landed.
These guys have low volume in general. Otto even more egregiously low.
Morono at least has landed 98 in his last fight, previously 111, and as high as 67 in a mid-range fight. He's landing 50, 60, 70 significant strikes. Otto's landing 20. He's operating at 130.
But Morono's 9,100.
I'm going to bet Morono the minus 185.
Fair.
But I'm not going to touch it.
Yeah, you're more than welcome to do that. And I think that's completely fine.
But why I said
that's why I just generally said at the beginning of this that this is not a fight that you want to play on DraftKings whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, well,
you're
the
right.
thing is, like,
you're right.
Morono doesn't have the volume or the style.
He's got the volume. He's got the power.
Not to score 90, like, not to get 100 points.
If he knocked him out, which
Sure.
Otto's been finished in 2 of his last 4
Fight
fights.
is minus 200 to go to decision. All of the
I would
numbers
agree,
are pointing at us just to avoid this fight altogether. And I agree. Otto is just egregious in how low his output is. So it's like, you want no part of either one of these guys on DraftKings.
Yeah.
Good luck with your bet on Alex Morono minus 185. I am pulling for
I'll
you.
let you know how it goes.
All right. Well, we'll all see. And finally, we got Alex White taking on Dan Moret. Alex White is 8,600 and minus 145 favorite. Dan Moret is 7,600 and plus 125. If Alex White can drink gasoline and live to tell the tale about it, you can get through this guy, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? This is another reoccurring theme of the card. It's that both guys got a good shot at winning. You can make a good argument for either guy. It's just going to come down to who's going to implement that game plan. Because Alex White, similar to multiple other people we've talked about on this card, he's got porous takedown defense, man. Like, you can just take him down or hold him up against the cage. Boxing is okay. Power is okay. Now that he's not fighting at 45 anymore, being at 155, he's not bad. When I see him take on Dan Moret, Moret is 6 feet tall. He used to fight at 45 as well, you know? But he's got 1 knockout win on his record. So he's not going to knock out Alex White. So he's going to have to take him down and submit him. And that's what he does. He goes down there. He tries to take you down. He tries to submit you. He fights to that game plan. He should be able to get him. There's a lot of red flags about Alex White. Namely, Alex White is rotating wins and losses in the UFC for the most part. Hasn't looked exceptionally good.
He's lost his last 2. One
last
to
2.
Jim Miller, one to James Krause.
Well, he beat Lobov. And by the way, they were trying to get Lobov a win. They didn't have anybody else that threw Alex White, but he wins. The fight with Tony Martin, he gets completely just out-grappled. He's neutralized. He has no offense. Afterwards, he's like, that's never going to happen again. I'm going to work on it. But he works at a really small little gym, Team Destruction, and he doesn't make the improvements. Against Mitch Clark, Clark's terrible. We both know that. And is unable to get the fight to the ground. And he's able to beat Mitch Clark. He's able to knock him out. Looks okay. The fight with James Krause is just a better grappler than him. He's able to neutralize him. He's able to take him down. The few times that they're standing, White's coming forward. White's landing shots. Krause just takes him down, neutralizes him. His fight with Jim Miller. By the way, after the Krause fight, big post online, I'm working on my wrestling. That'll never happen again. Jim Miller didn't need to take him down. Jim Miller fucking hurt him. Knocked him silly with a left hook. Jim Miller knocked him silly with a left hook. Takes him down, submits him.
Post-Lyme disease Jim Miller.
Yeah, that's true. And I love Jimmy. Don't get me wrong. Drops him with a left hook, gets on his back, chokes him with a rear naked choke. 1.5 minutes in the first round. So it's like, why do we get excited about Alex White exactly?
I'm not excited about it.
He's not a good grappler.
No.
Dan Moret wants to wrestle and wants to take him down. And for that reason, it's dangerous because you got a guy that is a grappler taking on a guy who has struggled largely with the grappling. But I just don't think Dan Moret's strong enough. Like, they both used to fight at 45, and Alex White was physical at 45. Dan Moret, even though he's 6 feet tall and had a terrible weight cut, he's not very physical. The fact that he's got 1 single knockout on 12 pro victories, it's a testament of he's not a power puncher. And he's really going to have to fight a perfect game plan of just grapple White the entire time for 15 minutes without giving him any space to work with, or he's going to get caught by something and seriously hurt. And I think White at some time is going to create enough distance, hit this guy. Moret doesn't wear damage very well. He seems to kind of look like he wants to slip punches, but he exposes the side of his head, tends to get hit, discombobulates him, makes him desperate. His last fight against Gilbert Burns, I thought he started off well, but ultimately, same thing. He got caught, he got hurt, he got knocked out. I could see Alex White knocking this guy out. The 8,600, I want to say it's not a great price, but there's a lot of people on this card that they've looked like they got a potential for the finish, and they're priced very highly. He looks like he's got a potential for a finish, and at least he's priced mid-range. So if you don't like some of these cheap plays on the card, and you're trying to assemble a roster with a lot of
Balanced
these
roster.
middle range price cards, well then he would be one of the plays that has a high upside for a mid-level price.
Yep. I'm with you. All right, let's move on. We've got, quickly, we'll go through our Ironman challenge last week. Cody Saftic making the lineup. Making our dual team great again. 675 points with John Jones, Ben Askren, Zabit, Pedro Munoz, Usman, and Diego Sanchez. We were both high on Sanchez. Usman and Munoz, you should give yourself a pat on the back for that, because you were agree. You were taking heat
Oh yeah, I was
on
I was.
Twitter
I
for
know.
laying Cody Garbrandt to rest
No,
in
dude.
his career.
Do you want to know
People were like,
People were upset.
people were triggered by how much you
Yeah.
called that fight to basically a tease. Like, Cody can't help himself. Not you, Cody. Cody Garbrandt, we did learn, not even learn. You had already seen it before we saw it. But it's just like, once that guy gets hit, once he gets his bell rung once, he goes into warrior mode, and he doesn't have the chin to last in warrior mode.
Yeah, well, that one I would give my pat on the back. It's like, oh, you know, whatever. You got one right pick. It's not the end of the world. The Diego Sanchez fight numerically was the biggest underdog, but you don't really give yourself that big of a pat on the back because you're like, saw that shit coming. The Garbrandt versus Munoz, it was like, yeah, that could have been dicey. It played out perfect. The Usman fight, I got way more heat in my like personal inbox about people that were like, you don't know what the fuck you're
There
talking
were
about.
people also in the
Quit.
comment section of this
You-
video being like, Tyra not
like-
getting any respect
like,
here, but it's just
people
like,
piss.
I came into that one not really 100% sold, and then once you started laying out the template, we were sitting right here at the desk, and I'm like, you know what, he's freaking right. It's just like that pace, that pressure.
Pressure.
Like that is the
That's why Colby, and I said it.
That
It's
is
like,
the
Colby would do the same
championship
fucking thing.
template that we are seeing from grapplers now. Khabib does that type
sure.
of style. Colby Covington does that type of style. You may not like his exploit, same type of style. And Usman, I think Usman's just a better version of Colby.
Yeah, he might be. He might
frankly.
be. But they fight a similar style.
100%.
you know?
It's gonna be
Now
interesting to
was-
see those types of styles clash because we haven't really seen much of that when like two guys like that go at it.
And so watching the Usman upset to me, that's how I honestly thought I was gonna. But the Pedro one, it was like they were slinging bombs, right? So like, yeah, he caught him, but it wasn't as if it was like sit down and chill. Like it was still a competitive enough fight. But yeah, you're right. Colby, he's got a default setting, and that's what happened. What you actually really helped. Sorry, I'm just gonna look at but we discussed the John Jones fight in that. I truly believe that Anthony Smith could last 5 rounds. That was another one. People said, there's no way this guy's going to make a 5 rounds of Jones. And I brought up the fact that, just like that OSP fight that you were on inside the
You
distance,
said stay away from
he just goes through the... Yeah, it was plus 550 Jones by decision or technical decision, by the way. If he would have got DQ, that would have fucking killed him.
He's like minus 450 for him to win inside the distance. That was the trap line.
That was the trap line, is that you just have the automatic assumption like, oh, he's just going to barrel through this guy. So I was reluctant to take him because he was such a high price tag. But all the same, he's John Jones. He's got 5 rounds. He's got takedowns. He's got ground and pound, 100 points. Ben Askren needed a little bit of help from the referee, but technically the first round submission. Zabit.
What we did learn about Ben Askren,
I learned a lot about
you're going to
Zabit
have
too.
to kill him.
Oh, yeah.
You are going to have to kill him to win. Now it was a terrible stoppage, but he still
badass.
he had Robbie in a headlock and was starting to control the fight.
Yeah,
so whether it was a bad stoppage, don't get me wrong, but still at the end of the day, Robbie Lawler had his opportunity. Most people get completely shut out. I thought Ben Askren was actually dead, basically, for a second there. But the guy got back up and went about his business, and hey, props to him. He got the headlock, and he got a little bit of help along the way. But he had Robbie in a bad spot at that point. And who knows how it would have played out. But I think it was starting to play out that Ben Askren has his wits about him again. And Ben Askren is going to basically stay on top of him, control him, and hold him down for the rest of that round.
Yeah, dude. And think about it. It's mentally very draining when you're Robbie Lawler. You're like, I just stuffed 2 of his takedowns, slammed this motherfucker on his head, and blasted him. His face looks like mincemeat. It looks like he just got shot out of a windshield from a car accident. I got this guy. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, he's got me down. You ever seen that video of Ben Askren crushing 2 watermelons with a gable grip? Like, oh shit. I stole this. I don't know where I got this. I wish I could give a shout out to whoever wrote it, but I read it somewhere. And it was a great reflection of how I felt on the situation, that everybody jumped up and yelled, he's out. And Herb stopped it. And it turns out he wasn't out. And everyone was like, oh, Herb. It was like, boys.
Tough situation.
We all thought he was out too.
And honestly,
Maybe
you saw his hand.
It fucking dropped.
It seemed like his hand went limp. I know it's in a slow-mo, yada, 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 but it's like the way that it moved, it did look like somebody's arm going numb. And we were not there listening to what was being said or thumbs up, and I don't know really what happened with them, but refs get a really, really tough,
It's a thankless job.
it's so hard, man.
Oh, well,
it is so hard.
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, because if you don't stop it, and then all of a sudden you realize Robbie Lawler's been out for 20 seconds getting strangled, then people are like, he's gonna kill somebody, fire him. It's just like, it's such a hard job that these refs have in there. So I'm gonna give Herb a little bit of a pass on that one.
Yeah, well, ultimately, it's like we were saying. When I was watching it, I had money on Askren. So you got to realize, if this was like back in the day where you had a printed betting or you're in Vegas, you fucking rip it up and toss it away. Like, he was getting fucked up, man.
Yeah,
I was like, well,
bad.
that's the end of the Askren experiment. This might be like Antonio McKee. They might just cut him after one fight. Just be like, fuck you, buddy. You talked all that shit. You came in, you lost. Goodbye, Robert Lawler, dispatch of you. When he came back and won, it was like, yeah, I was super excited because I wanted the fight to get stopped, but I legitimately jumped up and celebrated because I thought Robbie was out. The arm dropped. And I get it. The referee's got a better vantage point. He's in there. He's looking. He's touching the arm. But it's like, it's a split second difference. It's the same with Josh Rosenthal. Everybody, a lot of people, not everybody, well, some people don't even know who he is, the newer fans. Everybody was like, this guy's an awesome ref. Carwin versus Lesnar. Carwin is destroying Lesnar. And this guy doesn't stop it. And then Carwin gasses out Lesnar, chokes him out. It's like an epic moment in UFC history. It was a crazy fight. Yeah. It was one of the craziest events I've seen. Craziness. People were all like, damn, this guy's a good ref, man, because he let that shit go. But it's like, yeah, like you said, I've seen Rosenthal fuck up bad calls, man. Didn't he do Chris Weidman versus Mark Munoz? Remember that shit? Somebody should have got charged for that shit. But nobody, you know what I mean? Like, that's the fine line of reffing. Yeah. One of them is the greatest call, man. You let him go. And the other one's like, what are you doing, man? This guy's a family. Like, are you kidding me right now? So it's a thankless job. This was not a perfect lineup. I guess if we could have finished Shabazian or Johnny Walker. I'm a Johnny Walker truther now.
Well, basically, Zabit was like the...
I learned a lot about Zabit.
The somewhat bad chalk, I guess. Like, him and Askren were around the same price, but... 92 points from Zabit.
The lowest score was 92 points.
Yeah, like so we did completely fine. Shouts to Brendan Deary, who I don't know if he uses Twitter all that much, but he won 61K.
61,000.
And he thanked us and Anthony Lionheart-Smith. I thought that was kind of funny because it was like, if Anthony Lionheart-Smith, round 4 goes no mas.
Yeah.
Anthony Lionheart-Smith makes a lot more money for himself. He gets the belt wrapped around his waist, and they have to make a rematch, and they make immediate rematch as long as he was cleared to fight. Because obviously he took a hell of a hellacious beating over the course of 5 rounds in that. All right, it would have been in 4 rounds.
3 months down the road.
Either way, he cost himself a lot of money. But yeah, Brendan Deere thanked us and thanked Anthony Lionheart-Smith, because Anthony Lionheart-Smith doesn't. If he goes, nah, fight's over, gets the belt, he does. Obviously, all of these lineups were dependent on John Jones getting those extra points at the end of round 4 and into round 5 and all of round 5. Those are the points that really pushed him up. He sent us a screenshot. Happy for you, Brendan. Congratulations on your big win. And really, yeah, the major difference that they had in those lineups is they had Chase on instead of Zabit. And then it was like, I think instead of like Askren and Zabit, there was Chase on, and then one of it was like
Edmund Shabazian.
Shabazian.
He scored. Shababy did what he had to do, man.
Shabazian was like the only, that was the single one, and then the other guys all had like Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
And they had Johnny Walker, Chase on. So having John Jones, Chase on, Johnny Walker, I think that was second place. First place was somebody who left a bunch of money on the table, and Shabazian. And Shabazian was like, I think he may have scored like an extra half point or something, or an extra point more than Johnny Walker. Like, the margin for error in these contests,
like nothing,
from getting from first to ours in the big thing was like tied for 58. It was a super chalky lineup, but it was tied for 58 in the massive big contests. And the fine, it's such a fine line. It's such a fine line. Small little adjustments and you skyrocket. But hey, it was a great lineup all around. Right when we needed it to get right back on track. So
yeah, well, I remember because we had Jones, and the lineups ahead of us had Jones, but it came down when I was watching anyways. Like, Usman needed to score 125 points or something, and my buddy A-Rap I was watching with, he's like, yeah, there's just no way. Like, even if he wins, like, how is he going to score that? I was like, fuck it, I have to be a rout. But, yeah, maybe he's just going to rout him. He scored like 130 points.
Yeah.
So that's why ultimately
131.5.
Ultimately, we all love MMA. And we love guys like Johnny Walker. We love Zaleski dos Santos. We love Robbie Lawler. You like DK. You want a grappler. This is a guy that was getting stood up from the referee for inactivity. People were booing because there wasn't enough going on. He still scored 130 points over 5 rounds based on takedowns and a little bit of ground and pound and a little bit of, transitional control on the ground. So this is not a card that has a bunch of wrestlers on it. It's going to be a lot different, but that's something we're always looking at.
And finally, one thing I will say.
Usman might be your new boy, by the way.
Why?
I'll tell you why. I was this close to texting you right before the Ben Askren fight started. Tatiana Suarez, Gregor Gillespie, Khabib, Askren, and then he just start getting smoked. I was like, Paul's guys, that doesn't happen to them. I thought Usman, outside of maybe Covington, will try to do the same thing. Like, this guy can do that to anybody in the division. Yeah. And he will. And he'll be the champion.
Tyron Woodley. Nobody takes down Tyron Woodley and makes him look completely obsolete like that.
He would do it to Till, and he would do it to Masvidal, and he'd do it to Leon Edwards. And
Colby's the test.
Colby's
Can
the
he do it to Colby? If he does it to Colby, he's
because
Colby plays the same exact game.
Well, man, maybe not Ben, but he's a way better.
We buried the lead on all of this. Diego Sanchez. Diego Sanchez. We may be like the Sanchez whisperers. We know
people were on Sanchez. People
were definitely hip to it. There was a lot of hate out there being like, I can't believe Sanchez is going to be chalk. It's just like Mickey Gall is not a striker. Mickey Gall's best path to victory usually is to submit somebody. This guy, Diego Sanchez, never been submitted and has been on the ground with like Marcin Held and you go through so many other people. He's BJ Penn during BJ Penn's prime. Like, you're not submitting him. Diego Sanchez just called out Damian Maia next time out, which that makes me really
sign me up.
That makes me nervous as hell.
I'm in.
Makes me nervous as hell. If Diego wins the striking battle there.
No, Damian smokes him standing.
You think so?
Very underrated. Like, he can't strike with elite strikers, but Diego Sanchez.
I think this is like the one spot where I go like,
his striking.
Diego doesn't get submitted, and it's just like, have a
Damian's not gonna knock him out. Damian's not gonna knock him out.
Diego found the perfect matchup to make me really ponder, but we've been pretty much nailing Diego Sanchez for years now. And it's just all about style. And Mickey Gall was the perfect type of guy for Diego Sanchez to style on.
Well, it's always easier in hindsight, but one thing I really thought about as soon as the fight progressed, he got him down, started smashing him, I got thinking, one guy's 6-1 in his MMA career, and he's a 3-1 favorite over a 40-fight veteran. Yep. Diego fucking Sanchez, Ultimate Fighter winner. And a guy, by the way, just beat Craig White, which is like the similar level of what I consider Mickey Gall to be at. So yeah, again, that one didn't feel like a big upset call because I feel like the sharps are on it. Shout out to Daniel Levy, Best Fight Picks, because he had messaged me. He was on Pedro too. He saw the same thing, and like that's what I mean. Like, you might get a guy that's the underdog, but people know. In Sanchez's case, people knew. In Usman's case, I guess not. It took a lot. I don't know why I took a lot of heat on that, but they know now. I bet you he'll never be the underdog ever again.
No,
not for a long time. Anyway,
definitely not. All right, that more or less wraps it up for us this week. Thank you, Cody Saftic, for breaking down the fights with me. Thank you to nobody else for the switching.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm in charge of everything here.
You want to thank absolutely no one?
I would like to thank absolutely
Paul
nobody
Shaughnessy?
For the production aspect. I'm just kidding. Our buddy Chad having surgery on something, an old fighting injury or something like that. So
that's what you described it as.
Rest
old
up.
Fight injury.
He used to. our producer of our show could probably kick our ass. Based on the amount of time that he's spent in the gym.
Well, I've gone through the whole show without a single greasy theory, so I might as well lay one out here.
Ooh.
Maybe Chad used to do a little fight back in the day. He's no joke. Maybe Chad one time got a little fight, got a little injury, got it checked out at a hospital in Flin Flon, Manitoba, and they just did not take care of it properly.
Yeah,
and now years later, shit fucking comes back up. You got to get it fixed, man. And you got to get the surgery to repair it.
Yeah, if you ever need anything in terms of your health, or if you need surgery, you need anything medical-wise, do not.
Drive to
I repeat, do not go to Flin Flon, Manitoba. Thank you, Cody Saftic, breaking down the fights with me as always. Thank you to me for switching, producing, time coding, all of that stuff. Chad should be back, actually not even next week, where it's going to be the two of us again, but Chad will be back manning the cameras and doing everything for us, and we appreciate everything that he does. For Cody, I am Paul, saying goodbye and good luck.
That Mayo experience! Experience!